an interesting balancing act, I would say, going on with the LSU staff as far as quarterback recruiting in the 2027 class. You look at that group, and there are 3 quarterbacks that have significant ties to LSU. 2 of them are geographical. Peyton Houston is the number 14 quarterback in the country by 24/7. He goes to Evangel in Shreveport. Then you've obviously got Elijah Haven, who is the number 1 quarterback in the country by 24/7. He's at the Dunham School right here in Baton Rouge. So you've got 2 of the top 15 quarterbacks in the country in state that are about to start their junior season. And then your starting quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, has a little brother who is in that class as well, who 24/7 Sports has as the number 4 quarterback in the country. So these 3 guys have significant LSU ties geographically and then with a brother, where you feel like LSU is in a position to grab one of the best quarterbacks in the country in that class. But the question is, like, how do you handle this? Because if you take a commitment from one of them, does that scare maybe one that you want more off? Do you have to rank them 1, 2, and 3 and recruit one harder and one as a backup plan and one as your true fallback or safety option? Like, you've got to massage this properly if you're Brian Kelly and Joe Sloan. And that's a difficult game to play. It's almost easier if it's, Leonard Fournette, and you just say, okay, we're going to recruit this guy for 4 years in our state, and he's our only option, and we're taking this guy no matter what. And you just go sink all your resources into that. This gives you more options, but as you realize, like, quarterbacks can be a little bit finicky. Oh, you took his commitment? Well, I'm out. I'm going to look elsewhere. But I really wanted you. And then you tell him, well, I don't want your commitment. Give me. And you understand how that can happen when you're trying to court 3 spouses at the same time. It can create some issues. And there have been very little movement on the front of any of those 3 quarterbacks. They just finished their sophomore years. They're going to their junior years. And you feel like, okay, it's going to start to happen pretty quickly here. A lot of times quarterbacks are early commitments. Maybe it's in their junior year. Maybe it's just after their junior year. Perhaps before the start of their junior year. And that's what the industry is starting to believe. You have seen in the last 72 hours, in the last week, some predictions start to flow in about Elijah Haven and Colton Nussmeier. The industry now believes that Elijah Haven is a lean to Florida and could commit to the Gators and Billy Napier at any time. That's certainly not my opinion. That's the opinion of those who are in the know in the recruiting world. Billy Napier did a great job to recruit DJ Lagway. Now Lagway appears the heir apparent to that program and now is a starting quarterback at that program and could be for the next 2 to 3 years. That would set the stage for Haven to come in and perhaps play pretty quickly. That's attractive. Now he's 6'5", he's 215 pounds. He's got all the tools you look for in a quarterback. And if you're LSU and you think the number 1 quarterback in the nation goes to school 4 miles from campus, like, that would be a priority. But it feels like he may be leaning elsewhere. If you're LSU, okay, can you land one of the other 2? And just yesterday, a crystal ball at 24/7 was put in for Colton Nussmeier, Garrett's younger brother, to LSU. Now, Nussmeier, at this point, is a more physical presence maybe than his brother. Not literally right this second, but in terms of projection. He's already 6'3", 6'4", which is as tall as his brother. He's already 165, 170 pounds. You figure he's just now starting his junior year of high school, plenty of time for maturation, and he's a really good athlete. He's ranked by 24/7 as the number 44 player in the nation, the number 4 player in the state of, number 7 player in the state of Texas, number 4 quarterback in the country. And Garrett's been a model citizen in Baton Rouge. He's been a really, really good player in his time in Baton Rouge and could write an amazing legacy this year. As Matt profiled on his show 2 weeks ago, like, Garrett Nussmeier could leave LSU as the all-time leading passer in school history. Like, that's a possibility if he has another monster year. And his brother is probably a little bit better athlete than Garrett was at this point. Colton's also left-handed, which is a little bit of a different wrinkle to that. But if LSU could land Colton Nussmeier, even if Elijah Haven gets away, you feel like that's a good job of recruiting. Because at this point, Elijah Haven might win 2 Heismans. He may never start at Florida if he goes there. He may win 2 Heismans at LSU at this point if he decides to go there, and Colton Nussmeier might end up at Texas A&M. I don't know what the future holds. But if we're playing the hypothetical game, which is really all recruiting is, hypothetically, if the industry is correct, and Elijah Haven does go to Florida and Colton Nussmeier does go to LSU, and we'll see what Peyton Houston decides to do on the back end of that, I think you feel like if you've gotten one of those 3 guys, that's a good get. I'm not a Elite 11 scout. I'm not in charge of ranking quarterbacks across the nation. That's not my gig. I'm going to lean on the folks that do that to do that. But it feels like if you land one of the top 4 quarterbacks in the country, despite one of them being in your backyard that you don't get, which would generally sound like a disaster, especially on the heels of you having the number 1 quarterback in the country from this past cycle committed to you and not being able to land him. That feels like a disaster. It is certainly mitigated, if not completely alleviated, if you add Colton Nussmeier to this group. So I think that would be great for LSU. I think there are a lot of people that are super high on Peyton Houston. The knock on Peyton Houston to this point is he's short. And I use air quotes for that. He's 5'11", maybe 5'10", but he's a great athlete, got a strong arm, very accurate. And you know, at Evangel, they're going to be coached well, and they're going to have a good understanding of the way that offense works. There was a time where Evangel was a complete unicorn because this was the 1990s, and they were going 5 wide in a 7-yard shotgun and slinging it 40 yards down the field 50 times a game. That was unheard of in the real world of football. Now that's like what people ever do. So I think that he would be prepared based on the offense that he's run to come in and understand how to move the football through the air at the college ranks. The point I'm trying to make with this entire segment here is it sounds like a disaster if the industry is correct and Elijah Haven from Baton Rouge goes to an LSU rival in Florida to play quarterback. But if you do land Colton Nussmeier, that's a big deal. It would sound like a disaster if Elijah Haven wasn't even on the board and he didn't exist as the number 1 quarterback in the country out of Baton Rouge, and your starting quarterback's little brother was a top 5 quarterback in the country from a state over, and you didn't get him, that would sound like a disaster too. But the truth is that you're not going to land 3 quarterbacks in this class that are in the top 15. Those days are long gone where you could add 2 or 3 quarterbacks in every cycle and they were just okay coming in, competing, and potentially waiting. That doesn't really happen anymore. And LSU didn't sign a quarterback in this past cycle. So you got to get the high school ranks coming up, and you're not going to do it in one class. So I feel like LSU would be in a very good spot. If the industry is right and Colton Nussmeier does end up at LSU, you miss out on Elijah Haven. I would certainly live with that. And if you missed out on Colton Nussmeier but you got Elijah Haven, I would live with that. And I think I would live with Peyton Houston being the quarterback as well. He's ranked lower than those 2 by most services, but I would feel pretty good with that. LSU is in an advantageous spot for this 2027 class. They've just got to make sure they land one of them. At this point, we don't know who that's going to be or who the best option is going to be, but it sounds like folks are starting to plant their flag in the ground, and it sounds like Colton Nussmeier is the most likely of that trio to commit to LSU. We'll see. That's just what the folks seem to think right now. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.